We are continuing coverage tonight after learning a series of allegations spanning more than 2 decades occurred at a corporation co-owned by GOP gubernatorial candidate Tim Michels. Our CBS sister station in Milwaukee discovered lawsuits alleging sexual assault, harassment, racial discrimination, and a hostile work environment. According to several court documents, all of the lawsuits have been settled, including some former employees signing non-disclosure agreements. Michels released statements on Twitter earlier today saying in part, "This is a coordinated attack by Governor Evers and his allies. These unproven allegations do not reflect the training and culture at Michels Corporation." The Evers campaign released a political spot today focusing on the allegations and in a statement said, quote, "Sexual harassment and racial discrimination should never be tolerated, and voters deserve a straight answer from Tim Michels about what went on under his leadership." So when people see that news, how closely do voters pay attention to it? Does it have the power to sway people who are currently undecided? With more on how these headlines could impact the election is political reporter Will Keneally. Will?
So as we sat down with UW La Crosse political science professor Anthony Chergosky, he says that there are 2 key things that may sway voters when they see these headlines, that the reporting deals with Michels' business record and the timing of when it came out.
So this is a really critical point in the campaign when people are forming their opinions of Tim Michels.
Chergosky says that's because people are still making up their minds about Michels, who is one of the last candidates to jump in the Republican primary.
It's a very different story with Tim Michels, because he suddenly burst onto the political scene rather unexpectedly. The question is, how well vetted is he? And is there lots of information that hasn't come out but could come out about him? I think at this point, people pretty much know what they think about Tony Evers.
Those still making up their minds on Michels play a key role in Wisconsin elections.
New information could still have an impact, and it could matter among those marginal voters, those swing voters who make the difference in close elections here in Wisconsin.
And Chergosky says it's interesting that this targets Michels' business record. Because Michels is not an incumbent politician, his business record is largely what he's running on. For example, his policies are called blueprints on his website.
When business people run for political office, the dealings of their business become fair game in the campaign, because the campaign is all about learning what this candidate is going to be like if they're elected.
That can be an asset. Michels is an outsider in that regard, but if his business record is tainted and that's all that voters know about him, that could solidify negative perceptions. So if we take a look at the latest Marquette Law School poll, Michels' favorability numbers are 34% favors him, 39% do not favor him. Chergosky calls those numbers soft. They're movable. Compare that to Evers, whose positives and negatives are both in the 40s. So we'll see more on the polling and whether those negative numbers shore up.